It's Local Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance. Thank you so much for joining us. Our guest is Rod Wright. Mr. Wright is a member of the California State Senate. Sir, we thank you so much for joining us.
Good to see you again.
Absolutely.
Thank you for having me.
I want to talk about the state budget. As you know, Governor Brown had proposed an initiative which would have extended taxes passed a couple of years ago. That initiative is not going to go on the ballot. There was no Republican support.
But at least not in June.
Not in June. We know that. The head of the Senate, Darrell Steinberg, has suggested that a bill go forward that would allow local governments to pass their own taxes as a way to circumvent the challenges the state faces, aside from school bonds. What do you think about that proposal?
Well, the difficulty is they can do that now. I mean, the challenge is that depending on the tax, it would require a higher threshold.
Exactly.
But in many instances, if a city wanted to impose many of the taxes that were proposed, they can do that now. So I'm not sure that the legislation makes all that much sense, because much of what is being proposed is already in their grasp.
But arguably, it lowers the threshold from 2/3 to 50+1, which is significant. It already is 55% for school districts. At the same time, there is a question about whether, if you live in LA County, should you pay more than you live in San Bernardino County? The argument goes that if LA wants to tax itself more, it can. But what about the argument that we're all Californians, we should be taxed similarly for similar services?
Well, I mean, right now, the sales tax is different by each county. The business license tax is different for each county. The utility users tax for cable and telephone is different for each county. There are a number of things that are different because each city has a different threshold. Even within LA County, there's a difference in property taxes that people pay. There's a high tax and there's low tax and there's middle tax. So there are 3 different iterations of property tax. So I don't, people, you don't know it because you don't, everybody doesn't live in all the cities, but we already have differentials between taxes.
We have also heard proposals, Treasurer Lockyer has mentioned this before, that if certain legislators want to vote against the tax extension, that's fine, but then what the state can do is, for those communities, they can shift funds away for non-essential services. Maybe close a DMV in that community, because if that legislator's not willing to extend the tax, we got to cut somewhere. What do you think about that proposal?
That's not how you do government. I mean, it sounds like a nice threat, but that's not government. Because you live in Orange County, does that mean you don't get a DMV office? Or if I live in Watson, I voted for this bill, then I get 2 extra food stamps. I mean, I think we want to be careful.
Essential services is one thing, but the whole notion is that we are so desperate if we don't have this tax extension that we've got to find somewhere to cut.
I come from the view that it's our obligation as the legislature to prioritize where we make service cuts, and it should not be based on what Senator Smith or Assemblyman Jones did. It should be based on how do we provide the greatest service with the dollars that we have.
At the same time, the treasurer, he's really pushing the envelope. He said, well, if we are not going to have an all-cuts budget, maybe one approach would be cuts across the board. 25% cuts across the board. Don't even look at which program is more important than the other. Just let's even it out and see what happens.
I like Treasurer Lockyer, but unfortunately he's wrong there as well, because Prop 98 says that a certain percentage of the budget goes to schools, irrespective of what else we do. So his proposal is illegal per the Constitution.
It would be 25% to education, 25%. It would still be the 40% of the ultimate pie.
Oh, no, education's almost 45. So that means that you can't cut them at all. So that means that 45 comes off the top, and then you'd have to get the rest of it.
Which makes the whole budget process
all
the more challenging.
But it's the Constitution that we're under that says
I hear you.
that in order to do the budget, education comes off the top at a fixed amount of cash.
Okay, Rod Wright, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
He's a member of the California State Senate. I'm Brad Pomerance. We're going to send you back to HLN.